All right, everybody, we are live again, and this is our fourth video and fourth part four of our series on our success series. And today we're going to be covering prioritizing based on your why or based on your purpose in life. So in the previous couple of videos, we talked about discovering purpose as the first step towards your success. And then the second part is the purpose-driven decisions versus preferences. And then the third video we did was finding fulfillment based on your purpose versus based on what you do. And today, of course, we're going to be covering prioritizing based on your purpose. Okay, so the first thing, I'll get right into it. This is one of the hardest ones, I think, for most people is prioritizing, and that's a very common issue that I deal with on a daily basis for the people that I mentor. This comes up like very often, and I know. If you just joined us, we are, this is part of the success series, fourth video today based on prioritization. And, this is one of the hardest topics for people. And it's not an easy one, but it becomes easier when you know your purpose and what you're trying to accomplish, the end goal, the picture of your life. It becomes so much easier to be able to make to make decisions based on that on your schedule, based on your why. Okay, so the first thing I'll get right into it is the concept of big rocks. Most of us have heard of this concept of big rocks, which means that there's a professor that told the story, and I'll show you. Okay, and this is the idea of big rocks. And so what there was the story goes, there was a professor that asked the students in his class about, he says, okay, so if I, when I put, if I fill a whole jug with big rocks, a whole pail or whatever else with big rocks, what else can you fit in there? And then is it full? Can you fit some more things in there? And everyone's like, yeah, it looks pretty full, but yes, you can still fill more things in there. And then he puts pebbles inside. Right, he puts smaller rocks and pebbles, and it fits in between the big rocks. And then he goes, "Is it now full?" And they're like, "Yeah." Some of them are, "Yeah, it's now full." Others are like, "Maybe not." And then he puts sand into this glass there, and then he says, "Now is it full?" And they go, "Yeah, it's definitely full." And then he pours water into it, and then it's finally full. And so the whole lesson, he says, "What's my point?" And the students we're not 100% sure. They say, well, you just gotta fit as much as possible. You can always fit more into your schedule. But he says that's not the point. The point of this exercise was that if you can only put more things in your calendar if you put the most important things first. Now, if you did it the reverse order, where you started putting water first and then sand, then it would have been full by that time. And you can't put the pebbles or the big rocks in afterwards. So you always got to put the most important priority. It shows that, if you put it in the right order, then you will be able to fit a lot more into your calendar. But if for nothing else, if you were just able to fit the big rocks in, then you're doing totally fine. Okay, so that's the first as you're prioritizing based on your purpose. So it requires you to know what is the big rocks. What are the big rocks in your life? What are the purpose what purpose do you want to accomplish in your life? And that's the most important question there. Okay. So the next thing is, I'm gonna kind of run through a couple ideas to help you prioritize here. And the next principle I'm going to teach you about prioritizing is called the Pareto principle. Most people have heard of it. You might not know the name, but the Pareto principle just means the 80-20 rule. Okay, so here's for you here, the 80-20 rule. Okay, what it really says is that roughly, and this is a rough, sometimes it's 90-10, but 80-20 just means this. It just means that 80% of your efforts generates 20% of your results typically. And then 20% of your efforts will generate 80% of the results. And this works like that all the time in life. Your top 20% of your effort produces 80% of the results. And you can look at that as whether someone's studying for a test in school, whether somebody is doing work on an average day at work. This time that you spend at work, typically 20% of the time 20% of your work generates 80% of the results. And 80% of the time is just, things that you have to do, which generates only 20% of the results. So this roughly works all the time. And this works for leadership as well. 80% of the people that you have and that you're leading typically only produce 20%. But the 20% that you mentor and the 20% that you actually lead will always generate 80% of the results. Okay, so that's the 80-20 rule. And the key, though, from that for us who are who are trying to prioritize based on our why, the key again is the 20%. The 20% should be based on your purpose. Okay, so that's the key. 20% is based on your purpose. So what is your purpose? And you need to put that into the 20% of what you do, the top 20%. So in the beginning of the day, you want to get the most important things done in your life, right? Versus most people try to put all the other, the other smaller rocks in the sand and the water in first, and then they can't fit in the big rocks. That's 80% of the stuff. They try to do everything else and then leave the last 20% to the end of the day when they have no energy to do anything. So you want to put the best energy into the top 20% of things that needs to be done on your task list. And this is huge for your task list, as I hope everyone does have a system of task management. And I find that most people don't have one. And it's a very simple thing. You can download a free app. You can use Google Calendar, which has a task on there. Make sure that whatever you use as a task list, it has a beeper, has an alarm that beeps at you when you need to finish, when you need to be doing that next thing. Because otherwise you can make a whole list of things and not get any of them done. So you must have a task list that has a prioritization to it. And typically the Franklin Covey, their calendar, their agenda books have a prioritization system, A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, 4, which one's the most important. So you want to put anything that's related, any task that is related to your purpose, you want to put that as number 1, 2, and 3 in your task list. If you're gonna have 10 things on your task list to do tomorrow, make sure the first things that you do are the ones that directly related to accomplishing your purpose in life. Again, which requires you to know what is your overall goal in life. And so you want to put those things first, okay? So that's the Pareto principle. And then I'll go through this very, very briefly. This next slide I have here of time managers, right? There's people who base everything on their tasks, and that's the level 1 type of time managers. And then there's level 2 type of time managers. This is very common. A lot of people who base their life on their schedules. And then third, people who do prioritization, which is good, which is what we look for. And then the fourth one are people that are purpose and value based. This is where we want to be. We want to make our decisions based on our purpose and our values. Okay, so the people that base their life on their tasks, these are people that they let their task list run their life. They're like, well, I can't do anything because I can't do the important thing because I got these lists of tasks to do. That's like, I'll give you a funny example. Can you imagine if you have somebody you respect, an Elon Musk or a Bill Gates invites you for lunch, and then you go, well, I can't do it today because I have all these tasks I have to get done. Well, if somebody successful is willing to help you and teach you, that will help you get more done than an entire task list. So that's somebody who based their life based on tasks. The people who base their life based on schedules, and this is a very common one, especially in today's world. I hear people go, well, I can't make it to your invite to introduce me to successful people to help me with my goals because I'm already pre-booked, right? There is a difference between priority engagements and prior engagements. Okay, priority engagements, there are things that are priority based on your purpose. These are things that accomplish what you want in life, versus prior engagements are things that was previously to your calendar. And I see a lot of people mess up on this one. I always give the example of can you imagine this? Actually, the real example of this is this. The President of the United States, he has a lot of things on his task list to do. Did you know that it changes from time to time? It changes all the time based on what's happening and what's a greater priority to the country. And there was an example where a case happened a year or 2 or 3 ago when President Barack Obama of the United States, he was scheduled to go to China to go on a economic tour, and we all know how shaky that relationship already is. And so they set this whole thing up. They closed the streets down. It took months, probably a month or 2 or 3, to organize this whole thing. Many people involved, a lot of work involved. And then all of a sudden, there was the financial deadline came. United States, very often this has happened in the last few years now. They hit their budget deadline where they won't have enough money to pay all their workers, all their government workers, if you don't extend the debt ratio or the debt level. So he canceled this trip so that he can deal with that crisis, and he sent his other ministers, his economic minister there, and of course for his biggest trading partner, China. It was, they could have taken it as an insult and going, well, we set this whole thing up and we had our schedules meet for you and you canceled last minute. Well, because there was a greater priority that came up. And I believe the president does that all the time, and so do presidents of different companies. They're not unaccountable, but they change ever so often you have to change your schedule based on what's important to you, to your purpose, your overall goal. You gotta always keep that in mind as you do things. What is my goal in my life? What's my goal, and how does my day fit into that? How does this task fit into that? Okay, how does this appointment fit into that? Okay, so that's with schedules and prioritization. That's the third part, which is prioritization. There's people who base their things on prioritization, and what this means is that there are many people who base it just on priority. So when they number out their task list, so they put on their task list, to-do list, and then they prioritize it based on A, B, C, D, and then they don't change based on a priority. Even if something of a greater priority come, they still base their schedule based on what they previously thought was important. Okay, the fourth one, very simply, is what we want is the purpose and value driven decisions on how to manage your time. You ought to put in every day. You ought to be asking, why am I doing this thing? Why am I spending time here? And so often we go on auto. Often we just it's very easy for us, life just gets, it just runs, right? I go my appointments and I just go back and forth, back to back. Tonight I did 7-8 appointments back to back, helping some people, coaching some people, and so also often you just go and you go and you go, and all of a sudden you don't stop to ask, what am I trying to accomplish with these appointments? What do they really mean to my life and my purpose overall? Okay, and so that is making decisions in your calendar based on your purpose, okay, a cause-based. So that's those are the couple things that you want to watch out for in terms of time management. The last thing I'll show you here is the time management matrix. I took this from 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Is from Stephen Covey, and it talks about the urgent, important, not urgent, important, not important, urgent, which is Q3, and then not urgent, not important, which is Q4. Okay, so a lot of people have probably seen this before, and so this is, I'm going to flip to the next page here to explain a little bit of what that is. Urgent, important are the things that are necessities in your life, and but they are urgent things. They're crises, different crises, different deadline activities that you must deal with immediately. Otherwise, there'd be huge repercussions to it. And then the second thing is the not urgent but yet important. Okay, this is the most important quadrant to focus on. I'll talk more about that later. Okay, the third one is not important but urgent. Okay, so these are things like meeting other people's priorities and expectations of you. These are interruptions in your day. These are things that are urgent that you have to deal with. An urgent email comes, but it's not urgent to your goals, but it's urgent to somebody else's goals. And like your boss, if you had a job, the things that the boss asks you to do is urgent, but not really important most of the time. And then the last one is, of course, is not important and not urgent. These are like, filing your cabinet, not cabinet, but filing your letters and things like that. Junk mail, organizing things like that. So this is mindless TV watching, things like that, escapist activities. And so you want to avoid this as much as possible. I don't have a slide that explains this, but usually I draw this out. You want to balance all 4 has its place. Even the non-urgent, not important has its place, because there are times you need to recharge and spend time with people, and just spend time to recharge yourself, and some of that is important. So you want to put maybe 10% into here. And then quadrant 3, the urgent, other people urgent stuff. Maybe your family, your kids, your bosses ask you to do certain things that you know they're not ultimately important to you, to your goals in life, but it's urgent. You got to deal with it. There's deadlines, there's forms you got to fill up for certain things. For me, it's like I just got a speeding ticket a couple of weeks ago, and I got to pay it. So these are urgent things. Otherwise, that I will get sent to court if I don't do that. So that's not important to my goals, but it's urgent. Okay, and so you want to spend maybe 10% in this one, quadrant 4. You want to spend maybe somewhere in the 20+%, 20-30% there. Okay. And I'll do Q2 last. I'll go to urgent and important. So urgent and important is not necessarily the one you want to spend the most time in. I used to think that, I thought that at first I thought that was the main quadrant you want to spend your time in, but it's not true, because this is putting out crisis. There are certain things that, my goals of, like, I've booked my trip to Seattle on Monday, and now I'm urgent and important. It's an important trip because I'm there to mentor leaders. I'm there to develop my community there of leaders, and so however, I haven't scheduled anybody yet there. I know there are lots of people who want to meet, but I haven't finalized the calendar. Who should I spend time with and things like that. So it becomes an urgent matter. The only reason it's urgent is because I didn't put the time towards it. That's the only why it's urgent, and it shouldn't have been urgent, but now it's urgent. So then you want to spend maybe the 20-30% of your time there, and you want to spend the rest of it, 50-60% of your time, non-urgent but important. So what are non-urgent important? These are preparation and planning, like planning your next day, thinking about your values, slowing down and asking the questions. Should I be doing this activity? How should I fill my day? Empowering yourself, listening to good audios, watching good, maybe TED Talks or whatever else. Doing relationship building. Some of these things are not, spending time with loved ones. They're not urgent, but they are very, very important to your values. So this is where you want to spend the most time. And the more you spend time planning and the more you spend time here, the less time you will have, less urgent things you would have, because you would plan it ahead of time and it won't come out urgent. Just like my example of being in Seattle, and I'm still setting up some people that I really want to meet with. I'm still identifying leaders in that area. And now it's urgent. Why? Because I didn't time passed and I dropped the ball on it, and now my calendar's still empty and I'm scheduled to go. So I better be tomorrow. That's my whole day is filled with that because it's urgent now. Now, if I did that a week ago, then it wouldn't have been urgent, and I would be way more productive this coming Monday in Seattle. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense, guys. And thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching the show. And next week I will now be, or next show that I do, and my attempt is to do this every single day. So I haven't been following that every single day, but I will try and attempt to do that. So tomorrow the next show will be on critical foundations of a successful person. Okay, so critical foundations, and there'll be 4 parts to that. Okay, the first part will be knowing your core beliefs and values. Okay, so we'll tune in again tomorrow, and if you like the show, you can add me on LinkedIn or Twitter. My handle is Cho Lim Vision, CHOLIM, M as in Mary, and then Vision. Okay, at Cho Lim Vision. Okay, and then you can look me up on LinkedIn as well. Cho Lim LinkedIn. You should find me there. Okay, so looking forward to connect with everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow.